Hello, hello, everybody. Phoenix61 here with some Skull and Bones shenanigans, and yes, of course, we are insane. And by my girlfriend, the alcoholic here, you know, I mean, she'd be pretty cute if she didn't puke every once in a while here. But you know, she always gets it on my shoes. But anyway, so we are doing a different. Oh, there it goes. Oh my gosh. All right. We're doing a little bit something different today with our build, and so we are experimenting with the smaller ships, and I think one that people aren't doing is the, what is it, the sloop, the explosive one here. So watch as Lepest shoots his cannons at us, and then keep an eye on my health as we take these hits from these cannons. You know, just it doesn't seem to be doing any damage to us right now. Some of these are missing here, but he definitely hit me there, and we took like nothing, right? I think there is a bark near us, right? So we were getting some healing from him, but either it's just like straight up no damage or very, very little. Yeah, and here we are with the Soleil Royale, right? And as you can see, he's sending bombards at us, and we're not taking any damage from these things either in this fight, right? Like, we're getting slammed pretty good here, and cannons too. So I was kind of like, this scenario happened to me like a good chunk of times, and I was like, what is going on right here? And then here we are fighting Bertrand Hubach, right? So as you can see, our health is pretty low here, right? So this isn't, you're not unstoppable completely, right? But there is some sort of like caveat or stacking going on here with one of the like status effects or mechanics for this ship, and I'll show you, what I'm talking about here. But yeah, you can see we get hit by torpedoes too. And, you can see some damage being done there too, so I have some theories around that, but I'm just going to highlight this build in general. This is pretty epic for plundering. It works really, really good against structures, right? So this is an explosive build. And then I'm also using the new spring loader, right, where you can just set everybody ablaze, right? So the Infernal Maw, like the nice thing about pairing it with this build is the Dardanelles guns, the bombards, do explosive damage, and so when you have one of those Infernal Maw buoys out there, it's gonna instantly explode no matter how close you are to hitting it or not, right? So it's just really easy to get that Infernal Maw to explode, and then you've triggered fire, the ablaze effect on anybody nearby, right? So it's a good pairing in my opinion, right? And then yeah, as you can see, we're just decimating walls. This is Fort Picasso, right? So that's not like a crazy difficult one, but it's definitely one of the tougher ones, I would say. And yeah, we're just going through, the structures on this thing with ease with this build as well, right? So, and part of this is in the upgrades for this ship, right? So we will show you sort of what this is about. Yeah, so this is the sloop over on the right, and it's a DPS variant, and it's a small ship, right? So this is one where, like, after, this season, you're able to upgrade small ships to kind of bring them on par with the bigger ships, right? And, explosive hits, outburst explosive hits have a 50% chance of triggering an explosion, which deals 1,500 damage within a blast radius of 150 meters, increases damage to structures, and explosives damage by another 15%, right? The one we're kind of going after here is this Ruin. Explosive damage hits decrease enemies' weapon damage by 10%. And you can see when that's happening, when you hit somebody, they have the, like, that symbol on it. It looks like a little bombard, but, like, they have that status effect, right? And I'm just scrolling through just to show you what else I've got on here, but we'll do a deep dive, right? And the nice thing about this particular status effect is it resets when you hit them again, instead of like something like Ablaze or Flooded. As you hit them with more fire, it doesn't reset their ablazeness, right? So yeah, so the Bombardier is the sort of equivalent in the medium size, right? So it's a little bit different, and it's tough to say whether this would be better or worse, right? But I think I would do almost the exact same build as the Bombardier. But the thing is you don't get that defensive perk where you take less damage, right? So, and I was just curious, like, what the upgraded version of that ship would be, like what the perks are for that one. And you don't really get that much more, right? And that's part of the balance of the medium ship. Like, the medium ship already starts out better, right? So, if you didn't know, you can go in and hit Y and hold the, preview button to see what all the upgrade steps would get you, right? And at the end, it's just this at half sails or anchored, increase weapon damage by 20%, which is great, and reload time by 15% for explosive weapons. Like, that's awesome. But it doesn't give you that, like, defensive perk, which I think is what is either somehow stacking somehow, or just, like, I don't know if it's because you're a small ship and they're just missing you a lot, but, like, there was just too many circumstances where, like, I felt like I wasn't taking any damage, and I'm like, I'm going to do a video on this, right? So, you're not completely invincible, but there's just the rare scenarios where it's just like, something's not hurting me, and it probably should be, right? So, but yeah, Dardanelle's guns, so these are Season 1 weapon, right? So if you don't have these, you probably would have to get them from Legacy crates, right? So I think this might not be worth it without these, because I think they're the only thing that have Explosive 3 and that are this, good, right? And then for the Ox weapon, we're using Infernal Maw, right? So, and that's just like, it's just a good pairing there, is kind of my opinion here with this one, right? So this one is a Season 2 weapon you get from the Season Pass, the Smuggler's Pass thing, right? You don't have to spend any money for this, you just have to progress through the season content, and you get this automatically, right? And go in the Smuggler's Pass and unlock it, right? So, but yeah, the deployed buoy erupts into a fire explosion when destroyed, dealing 300% damage and instantly causing targets to be set ablaze. So this would be a really good pairing with the medium variant of the, the explosive DPS ship too, right? But and I think another thing that's happening too with this build is, when you're taking damage, my assumption is it must only affect standard damage, right? So, like, not elemental, right? So if they're hitting you with, like, fire or flood or something, those seem to hurt just as bad as they normally would, right? I'm using the Black Prince for armor. I think, if you were fighting La Peste, you would use, the Wailing Ward. There's a specific armor piece for him. And then I think with the Hubach twins, I was using the armor piece from the Bartender in St. Anne, right? I always forget what it's called, but that has, like, flood mitigation perks on it, right? And then I'm using Rigging Station for the major furniture, right? So that paired with the Black Prince is one of those things that kind of keeps you alive if you do get low on health. And I will demonstrate that too. This Bombard Minister, right? There's some increases bombard damage by 10%. So that's, like, great for this build. I think I got that from a world drop. It doesn't look like you can buy that or craft it, right? I think I got that from, like, doing, like, world events, right? And then just, anything that buffs your bombards. And then I did pick starboard and port weapon damage increase, and then more bombard stuff. The Powder House 1. Area of effect radius, that seemed to be helpful with, when you slightly miss people, right? When you, that you'd still get some explosive effect there. Side note, this does not work at all with sea monsters, right? So we're with Megalostari here. We're getting really good hits with our bombard, but you can see he doesn't take, sea monsters don't take status effects at all, right? So there's you can't flood them, you can't set them ablaze, nothing. You just have to do raw damage. Explosive seems to be working really, really well, but it doesn't show the status effect, like the little, like, cannon symbol above him, right? So you can see we're getting hits on him right here, and we brace and we get slapped, right? So I would say the tank build that we have, that I've demonstrated in some of my other videos, is definitely the best way to go when fighting sea monsters. And then, with that, occasionally feeling invincible in PvE, player versus enemy, I decided to try my hand at player versus player, like PvP, right? So I went out, turned my PvP flag on, and went and picked a fight with some people. I think this build, like, it stands out. Like, you can do it works pretty good, but it's very clear that this, like, the received damage nerf does not work anywhere near as well as it does versus your regular enemies, what it does in comparison to, like, regular players, right? So there's a tank here, a snow, and then a brigantine, right? And I think I was doing pretty good against the the Brigantine, right? I think you could take one of those on. You know, a lot of people like to use Skurlock's Long Nines with those builds, right? But you know, I of course have restoration kits, so you know, like that doesn't work. But I was definitely struggling with, you know, against the tank, and then here at this point they ended up both teaming up on me, because I think I can't remember when I recorded this. I may have like jumped into the middle of their fight, and so I think they were frustrated with me. But appreciate you guys. Let me, you know, you're in my video now, right? So, and then, you know, at this point we should probably be dead, but what's keeping us alive is that Black Prince and rigging station combination, right? Black Prince armor and rigging station furniture piece, right? So we're getting some heal from rigging station, and Black Prince is mitigating damage quite a bit. So I was just curious at like how this works. So I actually had a buddy sign in, and just, you know, we turned PvP flags on, and I just wanted to play with it and experiment, right? Like, okay, like how much damage are you doing to me now, right? So that symbol, that status symbol on the far right above him, that looks like the little like cannon or bombard, like that's the one you're going for, right? And you can kind of see it as it like diminishes, right? But then as you get another explosive hit, it resets it, right? So, and then he's shooting me right now with just regular culverins, right? So I had him shooting me when he didn't have the status effect, and then I shot him a bunch of times and had him shoot me again when he did have that status effect symbol above him. And it did seem to be that he was doing about 10% less damage no matter how many times I hit him with the bombards, right? So it didn't seem like that was stacking at all, right? But so I think there's something going on in the PvE realm where you're fighting regular players, right? And then yeah, so I had him use he's using Zamzamas just to see if anything was like different, and it was kind of the same effect. I think maybe he was doing a little bit better with the Zamzamas because they have fire, but like that's just, you know, because they include some fire damage, but that's just like kind of my theory of what's happening, right? So like I think that like with like status effects and perks and stuff, the game is kind of not the greatest at describing like exactly how it works and what happens, right? So like for this one where it's like, you know, you'll take 10% less damage, it's like, well, is that 10% less damage per explosive hit, or is it 10% less damage, you know, then it tops out, or does not stack, right? You know, you see other games that have things like that where they'll say like stacks up to this many times, or does not stack, or, you know, whatever, right? So it just, there were some scenarios like here and there where it felt like in PvE it was stacking and I was getting some wicked awesome like damage reduction. And I think that was like, that kind of disappeared when they were shooting me with like elemental type stuff, and like, you know, for example, like La Peste's poison, right? So it's not like this end all completely forever invincible build, right? You've got to get those hits. It just needs to be the right scenario and it needs to work right, you know, so it's just, it's not perfect. And then, yeah, it doesn't work at all with like sea monsters, and I'm sure there's some other things I wasn't thinking of to like test it with. And then of course PvE, like that would just be like wicked broken sort of thing if it worked, if it didn't, you know, if it worked for PvP. I mean, like if you could go in, fight other players and just ruin them because they can't do damage to you, it would be like not fair. But like, you know, I was like, no, I didn't see anybody building with this, so, you know, I was like, let's try it out, right, and see if it works, because I didn't see anybody else doing it. But thanks for watching, guys. Make sure you're following the channel. We'll have more Skull and Bones videos in the future. So yeah, until next time.